there is a kind of silence that almost no one notices. A silence that doesn't come from a quiet room or an empty night, but from the absence of a digital footprint. It's the quiet space where a photo should be, the blank spot where a caption could exist, the empty feed that feels like it's missing a story. In a world where people share their breakfast before they even take a bite, where updates and announcements have become almost reflexive, there is a group of people who choose to remain unseen. They watch from the sidelines. They consume content without leaving any trace. They follow the digital noise without ever adding their own voice. These individuals aren't inactive because they're antisocial, uninteresting, or disconnected. They are what many call digital ghosts, people who exist online but leave no visible mark, people who observe everything yet reveal nothing, people who float through the internet like shadows in a world obsessed with lighting itself up. To understand them, you have to step outside the usual assumptions. Most people believe everyone wants to be seen, everyone wants to be heard, and everyone wants to document their experiences. But digital ghosts operate from a completely different psychological blueprint. They are not lacking something, they are choosing something else. Their silence is not an accident, it's intention. Their invisibility is not weakness, it's preference. And in that choice, they reveal something deeper about modern identity, vulnerability, and attention. Posting on social media is often treated like a natural part of daily life, but the truth is that every post is a miniature performance. The angle of the camera, the filter, the caption, the timing, the hashtags. These are not random choices. They're decisions about how you want people to see you. For many people, this process feels normal, even fun. It's a creative outlet, a form of expression, a way to connect. But for digital ghosts, this process feels mentally exhausting and emotionally misaligned. They don't enjoy performing because they don't see their life as something meant for an audience. When they try to post, it often goes like this. They write something, they delete it, they rewrite it, then they question the purpose of the post altogether and eventually abandon it. Not because they're insecure, but because the translation between their inner world and the online world feels impossible or unnatural. Psychologists call this low self-monitoring, meaning they don't adapt their behavior to fit an expected image. High self-monitors adjust their presentation depending on the environment and audience. Low self-monitors don't. They stay consistent across contexts and don't feel the need to craft a persona. This is why digital ghosts feel such resistance toward posting. Social media inherently encourages performance, and performing feels inauthentic to them. For them, the most authentic choice is often silence. They also experience something known as the spotlight effect more intensely than others. The spotlight effect is the tendency to believe people are paying far more attention to your actions than they really are. Most social media users eventually get used to this and develop a kind of emotional callus. They realize people are too busy with their own lives to judge every little thing. But digital ghosts don't reach that point because they don't engage often enough to build that tolerance. To them, every post feels like a possible point of scrutiny. They imagine people analyzing their photos, interpreting their wording, or questioning their choices, even if the reality is that no one cares that deeply. It's not fear, it's awareness. It's the recognition that once something is online, it becomes public property for anyone to interpret however they want. Digital ghosts also see social media as a stage, not a place for genuine intimacy. They know that posting is not the same as connecting, broadcasting is not the same as bonding. They prefer conversations over captions, phone calls over likes, shared moments over shared timelines. They believe that true closeness happens in private, not public. For them, posting personal details to a wide list of acquaintances and strangers feels unnatural. The idea of sharing emotional moments with people they don't actually know feels backwards, even unsafe. They find the unspoken rules of digital interaction overwhelming, liking someone's post, responding to comments, acknowledging tags, or reacting to stories. All these expectations feel like social chores rather than meaningful interactions. So instead, they opt out. Another defining characteristic of digital ghosts is their heightened awareness of permanence. Most people don't think twice before posting a joke, a rant, an opinion, or a photo, but digital ghosts do. They understand that once something is online, it can outlive its original meaning. Humor ages poorly. Opinions evolve. Style changes. People grow. What felt right at 20 might feel embarrassing at 30. They are hyper-aware that digital history is rarely forgiving. They don't fear judgment. They fear misrepresentation. They want the ability to outgrow old versions of themselves without leaving behind an archive of mistakes. For them, privacy isn't secrecy. Privacy is control. Control over how much of themselves exists in the public sphere, and control over how much of their evolution becomes searchable. Their relationship with validation also differs from the typical user. Social media is built on variable reward systems, the same psychological mechanism used in gambling. You never know how many likes a post will get, or how many comments you'll receive, and this unpredictability becomes addictive. But for digital ghosts, this system feels unstable and unpleasant. They don't want their mood or sense of worth tied to numbers, algorithms, or the unpredictable behavior of strangers. They prefer intrinsic motivation over extrinsic validation. They want to feel proud, happy, or fulfilled based on their own standards, not based on the reactions of an online audience. Digital ghosts tend to be observers rather than participants. They find human behavior fascinating. They see social media as a massive psychological experiment. They watch patterns, how people change after a breakup, how friendships shift, how trends spread, how people present different identities on different platforms. Their outsider status gives them insights that frequent posters don't have. They see the theatrical nature of social media more clearly because they're not swept up in it. They're the kind of people who recognize when someone is posting out of insecurity, loneliness, excitement, or validation seeking. They notice shifts in tone, changes in frequency, and subtle edits that reveal a lot more than the post itself. What truly sets digital ghosts apart is how they protect their experiences. While others feel the need to document everything, digital ghosts feel the need to keep certain moments sacred. A sunset doesn't need to be photographed to be appreciated. A memory doesn't need to be shared to be meaningful. A victory doesn't need an audience to be valid. They believe some things become less special when turned into content. They want to live fully, rather than constantly curate their lives for display. Ironically, they experience far less fear of missing out than most people assume, because they are not constantly exposed to other people's highlight reels. They don't feel the same pressure to compare themselves. They don't see every vacation, every engagement, every promotion, and every celebration. As a result, they have what psychologists call comparative immunity, an emotional stability that isn't constantly disrupted by other people's achievements. They measure their life by their own internal standards, not by the curated perfection of others. Even more interesting is that digital ghosts often live more deeply in the real world, because they aren't filtering life through the question, should I post this? They experience their moments more fully. At concerts, they actually listen instead of recording. At dinners, they talk instead of posing. During milestones, they feel instead of announcing. Their attention isn't split between living and documenting. They are present in ways that many modern users struggle to be, and because of that presence, their relationships tend to be more immersive and meaningful. When they spend time with people, they're not thinking about what will look good online, they're thinking about the person in front of them. But this silence also comes with challenges. Digital ghosts can miss invitations that only exist online. They can seem distant or disengaged, even when they're not. Friends may assume they're uninterested because they don't comment or react. Family may question why they didn't post about important events. In a world where online participation is often mistaken for real participation, digital ghosts must work harder to maintain connections. They rely on direct communication, texting, calling, showing up, staying involved in ways that algorithms can't replicate. Still, their intentional absence reveals something powerful about human choice. In a culture designed to make sharing effortless and irresistible, they choose restraint. In a world built on attention economics, they choose privacy. In a society where identity is packaged, posted, and promoted, they choose authenticity without an audience. They resist one of the most persuasive systems ever created, not out of fear, but out of conviction. So maybe the real question isn't, why don't some people post? Maybe the real question is, Why do the rest of us feel like we have to? Because understanding digital silence forces us to confront our own relationship with visibility. Maybe the digital ghosts aren't the strange ones. Maybe they're the reminder that you can exist, grow, change, love, succeed, fail, and live fully without performing for anyone. They show us that participation is optional, presence doesn't require proof, and sometimes the loudest statement you can make in a noisy world is the choice to remain silent.